Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ and Friends. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and today is Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, which means it's time for Getting Real to Heal with Dr. Matt Lederman. And I am wearing my Vegas hat to remind you to get your tickets to the Plant Powered Party on Labor Day weekend before they sell out. They are going fast at the early bird rate of lucky 777 for this wonderful 3-day experience. And Dr. Matt Lederman is one of the featured speakers, and you'll get to meet him in person if you come. So today's show is about what happens when the weight is gone and the vigilance remains. And Dr. Matt will come on and introduce today's special guest. If you'd like an opportunity to work with Dr. Matt in this forum, just please write us at help@chefaj.com and you'll have a conversation with Dr. Matt to see if you're a good fit for this type of forum. He won't be here for the next 3 weeks because he's going to be doing something very exciting in his own life, but we'll have some others people to entertain you, like Javant next week. So please welcome Dr. Matt.
Hey AJ, thank you. How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Well, you want to tell everybody where you're going to be, and that's why you're taking 3 weeks off?
I'm doing a nonviolent communication retreat in Virginia. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to be working with my mentors that I trained under, and we're going to do a couple of like a week and a half, 2 weeks of immersing yourself in a nonviolent communication consciousness and different exercises and trainings and being with people that are aligned around nonviolent communication. And then I'm also helping facilitate it. So I love teaching. So I'm going to go early and help set that up and prepare. So it's exciting. It's one of my favorite things to do are these type of retreats.
Why do you love nonviolent communication so much?
I love it because when I have the capacity and skill to live that way, it just makes life so much more wonderful with everybody I interact with myself, with my kids. Um, it's just really sweet when you can access the heart in that way. And I wouldn't I once you experience it, it's hard to go back.
Right. Well, we're doing this, hopefully get more people interested in this way of communicating. So what's the show about today, and who have you got as our special guest?
So we have Janet. Welcome, Janet.
Hello, everybody.
Uh-huh. And Janet, I enjoyed talking to you, Janet, about some of the things that you're dealing with or navigating, and
Mhm,
rather than me tell everybody, because I also want to be careful of what you want to share and what you don't want to share. As I've said to you and everybody else who is either interested in being on this show, that the most important thing is that you feel safe and comfortable, and we only talk about what it is that you're comfortable sharing. And we don't, at any point you stop if it's not feeling comfortable, and we can pivot. And there's always things to learn and talk about at any level of depth. So, knowing that, Janet, well, first, how does that sound, Janet?
That sounds great.
Okay,
Perfect.
good, good, good. How are you feeling right now before we jump in?
I feel so lucky. I just spent 6 weeks with Dr. Graham in Costa Rica. And for 6 weeks, I couldn't eat at night and I couldn't eat in between meals. And it was great.
Mm,
So I'm sleeping better. I'm feeling better. And now the transition to home is is going on. I've been home since Saturday. And I haven't eaten at night. And sometimes in between, I'll have some celery because I get so hungry before the next meal. But for the most part, I'm not eating in between, and I am still sleeping better. Last night, I was up for a couple of hours for the first time, and I wanted to eat something, but I didn't.
mm,
And so I'm just hoping to explore this a little bit, dig in
yeah,
and see if there's something I can discover.
yeah,
And with Kaiser, there's health coaches I found out about, and I'm going to talk to one next week because I really, really, really want to keep this up. So I'm gathering up all the support that I can to just continue doing what I'm doing.
yeah.
And yeah,
That's great. Can you share when you say Dr. Graham, is that Doug Graham?
Yeah, Dr. Doug Graham, the 80-10-10.
Yeah.
I've got osteopenia, getting close to osteoporosis, and so he's helping me reverse this process through powerlifting and raw food and just a very clean lifestyle.
Okay. And when you went away for the 6 week, do you want to share a little bit of background about what we're going to talk about or what you've been dealing with? And this way, when you
Yeah,
share how it was better, people will have a context.
good point. Well, I've been on with Chef AJ a couple of times and talked about my story. But in 2020, I became whole food plant-based, and I lost 50 pounds through Chef AJ's calorie density and Dr. Lyle and Dr. Goldhammer, the the pleasure trap. Boy, God, as I understood those two things, they just really helped me. And I watched Chef AJ's shows religiously, and I just love her and all that she's trying to do. And I even got to meet her in Puyallup, which is where the Seattle Veg Fest was that year. And it's a little hodunk town south of Seattle. And she and I hung out and went for walks and just enjoyed her presence. And the healthier I get, the healthier I want. And so I got interested in the raw food. Dr. Brooke Goldner's uh, programs for reversing lupus, and some different things sprung up, like my skin broke all out, and I just was looking for healing type things, and she has this 6 week rapid recovery that I didn't do it with her, but I did it as best I could along with Nan. Nan Simonson was doing it, and she and I just synchronistically started at the same time, and so we got to know each other, and I did a couple of 6 weeks with Dr. Brooke Goldner's program of drinking green smoothies and eating raw foods and omega-3 fatty acids, and my skin healed up, and then it broke out again, and I got involved in Chef AJ's bundle with Lissa, and I met Chris Kendall and found out about Doug Graham, and Chef AJ's had him interviewing both Doug Graham and Chris Kendall, and you get to know people, and Lissa, I just adore Lissa, and have done a lot of her raw food. I started trying raw for more healing purposes, and I just really resonate with eating raw. So the 6 weeks in Costa Rica, I was eating raw, and we were powerlifting every other day and hiking on the other
This
days.
was,
And
sorry to interrupt you. This was this past 6 weeks when you were away. Okay.
yes, just bringing you up to the present moment. I've
Mhm.
lost 90 pounds in all, because originally I was 200 pounds, 199 and 3/4, and then I stopped weighing myself. So somewhere in there, I got on the stick and started to lose weight. And actually, just the up until the time I was 65, it took me. I could lose about the first 40 because I was so heavy, and I hate being fat. And I couldn't get lower than between 150 and 160 until I met Chef AJ and Dr. Greger and all the crew with the vegan whole food lifestyle. And then the rest just melted off. And I've maintained it since. It took about 15 months to get it off, from 2020, July of 2020 to I think it was December of 21. And
And
I
you got
kept it off ever
down, and just
since.
to be, you said you dropped 90 pounds, so you're about 110 pounds. And how
Yeah.
tall are you?
And then I was 110, and then I put on a little bit because everybody kept saying, "You're so skinny, you're so skinny, you're too skinny." I'm about
How tall are you? Real quick,
116,
how tall are you?
just short of 5'5". But now I'm right around. I was 116 when I got back from Costa Rica, and that's right around where I am usually.
Yeah.
Is Yeah.
around that. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is the challenge? So if you're 116 pounds, you're loving the food, your skin feels good, where's the problem?
Oh, I got in this terrible habit of I would wake up at night and be laying there and get bored. And so then I'd get up and eat, some apples or some oranges. And I mean, it's not bad food. It's just I'm eating when I'm not hungry. And it disturbs my sleep and I'd be up all through the night and I tended to graze during the day. And when you listen to all the experts, they say, don't eat in between meals and give your body a break in between meals. And I wanted to see what that felt like to not eat in between meals and not eat at night. And I couldn't get myself to stop. And so then when I saw you on Chef AJ and you offered to work with people, I thought, well, shoot, maybe Dr. Matt can help me. And then I had this trip to Costa Rica where I couldn't eat in between or at night. I mean, I suppose I could have, but I'm not in my own home where it's just so easy. You go buy a banana. I mean, you pass by a banana, you just pick a banana. I just pick up a banana and eat it, and when I don't need to. And I mean,
So
I love my life. There's so many other things to do, and it's just old habit and
yeah,
and maybe something
some
else. I don't know.
so I'm hearing that you're eating when you don't want to or you don't feel hungry. So when you wake up at night, you don't have any sense of hunger.
Well, last night I was. That's how it usually starts. Is I do wake up legitimately hungry, and then once I start the process, then when I'm not hungry, I'm doing it, and then I'm doing it every night. I mean, it's just, and then I'm getting up every night, and
So some nights
so
you're waking up hungry, and then other nights you wake up and you're eating just because you ate the other nights when you were hungry.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean,
And
last night I was hungry, but then when I woke up this morning, I wasn't, and I went and I did 40 minutes of yoga, and then I went out and walked a little over 5 miles, and I was fine. I didn't eat till I got
yeah,
back, and so it's
yeah. So
not legitimate hunger.
something about feeling the need to eat at night that's bothersome to you. It's not even the type of foods
And
you're eating, and it's the fact that you're eating not like it's one thing if you were hungry at night, you might be okay with that or less bothered by it. But eating when you're not hungry bothers you.
and really eating when I am hungry because it'll pass, and I don't, by the next morning it's not there anymore. The couple of times that I've done it.
So you'd like to be
So
able to ignore the hunger signals at night.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. And then when you were in Costa Rica for the last 6 weeks, did you wake up hungry at all?
in the beginning, and then the more I didn't eat, the better it got, and the better I slept, and the sounder I slept, and I just saw. I was finally able to see. Oh yeah, I am doing better by not
Mhm.
getting into that pattern.
Did you eat um, differently or more or less while you were there? What was the food like? Because it sounds like how do they feed you there? What's that like? And AJ, have you ever been to the Doug Graham retreats at all, or have you not been to Doug
I
Graham?
I've not. I've done some raw food things. I went to a raw culinary school, but no, I've never been there.
Doug Graham. Okay, I was curious. So, Jana, what is the food like there? Do they have a buffet and
So
you eat as much as you want, or
we prepared. I was an intern, so there were three water fasters there, and there were four of us interns, and the interns monitored the fasters, and we made the meals. So the first meal, I can tell you every meal. The first meal is the hydrating meal. So I haven't, I've been sleeping all night. So the hydration meal is usually melons, and we would have watermelon or cantaloupe or watermelon and cantaloupe. It would be melons. The second meal is the calorie meal, where you get your calories in, and we would have bananas. Lots of bananas, papayas, greens, celery, and the bananas we'd make. Chef Shari Lederman was the chef. You've probably had her on your show too, Chef AJ.
Yeah.
She would process up frozen and fresh banana, and she'd swirl in raw carob and well, she'd do all kinds of things. One she called Rocky Road, and she'd have fruit within the banana ice cream, and it's the sweet fruits at lunchtime.
Okay.
Um, so it was just delicious. Every day we had ice cream for lunch.
Mhm.
So, um,
And then what
and
about
I would,
dinner?
and then dinner would be greens. It would be, salads. It would be green salads, coleslaw salads, koodles or zoodles, and then sauces that
Yeah.
were maybe pineapple, tomatoes, and tahini.
Hmm.
Um, we'd have a bowl of greens for people that just wanted just fresh greens. She would take whenever the leftovers from the night before, she'd pour them on Teflon sheets and make
Hmm.
crackers out of them, like even the dressing from the night before. It would become a
Okay.
dressing the next day. Or she'd mix things and dehydrate veggie burgers. So the veggie burgers might be zucchini, carrot, cabbage, tomato, a combination of that. And she'd make them into veggie burgers, or we would.
Okay.
We'd always start each dinner with fruit also, like an ambrosia
That's
salad,
that's
which would
good.
be guanabana,
That's a,
granadilla,
that's
papaya,
okay.
pineapple.
That's enough because I just want to figure out like a sense of how much you're consuming there versus at home. And in general, would you say you ate more there, the same, or less? Just because all that food was prepared and delicious, would you say you
I mean,
consumed
I would eat until I
more
was full at
calories?
each meal. I don't know if it was more calories. I did drop a few pounds. I think when I left, I was maybe around uh, 120,
And then
and when I
why didn't you get up to eat at night there? Was it just
well,
harder?
yeah, I was in a different house. Yeah, we were
Was
in
there
three
reason?
different houses on the
Okay.
property.
Okay. So there was not food as readily available. So it was harder.
Right.
Okay. Let me summarize what I think I got so far. Tell me if I'm getting close here, but lost a lot of weight up to 90 pounds, and you struggled with weight most of your life.
Yep.
And now you're eating primarily raw, smoothies, salads, fruits, sprouts, maintaining a weight around 115, 116 at 5'5". But even though you maintain this healthy weight, there's still this sense of um, overeating, or did you use the word a little bit of a compulsion around food, or would you use that word, or
I
what word would you use?
We could use that word. I mean, I've been a
Does that
compulsion.
resonate with you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels like it fits. Okay. So there's a little
I
bit
hope
of
to
like a
say I'm recovering.
but a preoccupation. You think about food more than
That's
you
another
enjoy,
thing.
let's say.
Yeah. Yeah. That was another thing that I was talking about, that I'd be eating one meal thinking about what I'm going to have at the next meal. Like, yeah, it's a major part of my brain that I would like to put at rest.
Yeah. So there's some part of your brain that's like food, food, food. Are we getting enough? When are we going to, how are we going to get more? When are we getting more? What's the next meal going to look like? But there's this chatter about food that seems like it's ongoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
I
thinking of,
have to
yeah,
say that's not as much as it was. I guess I'd even forgotten about that. Yeah,
since you came back.
I feel like the way I eat now is more satisfying.
Yeah. And if before you left, seems like it's also different than now after having been away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And sometimes you eat when you're hungry at night. Sometimes you just eat because you're up and you think about the food and you like the way the fruit tastes. So there's sort of this sense that your body is lighter, but your brain still feels heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it
And
really helped
yeah,
that today I knew I was coming to talk to you, because last night when I woke up and I wanted to eat, I said, no, no.
yeah,
You're going to talk to Dr. Matt tomorrow.
you
And,
gotta
you know,
gotta not do
yeah.
that. So one of the things we tell our patients, our clients, is that using willpower to avoid the food, even though that's what we think we want, and on one hand, that is what you want. On the other hand, that's not what I consider success
Hmm.
because I don't want you sort of, you know, white knuckling and being like, how do I resist this food? We want to get a shift to where it's joyful. And we want to sort of explore, there's potentially and likely different things going on here. You also talked about sort of growing up, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but there was definitely trauma and stress and chronic unpredictable stress growing up. Fair to say?
Yep.
Yeah. And then I also remember you saying that you that when you talk about this stuff, a lot of people immediately blame the raw food diet,
Yes.
and that doesn't feel good to you.
Well,
That
it's not that it doesn't, they can say, I mean, I feel I eat healthier than I eat,
right.
I eat live food.
Right,
More
but if they
nutritious.
say that the reason you're having these problems is that you're eating raw, and
Right.
if you just ate
They
cooked
always want me to,
food, you
yeah,
would not have a problem anymore, and that it's not helpful to you for somebody just to tell you the problem is it's raw and you need to eat cooked food.
yeah,
So I think that's
right.
helpful, because when people are trying to help, sometimes they wind up causing more pain than they're intending, because they're not clear what resonates for the other person or what doesn't. So it's helpful when you're clear about those things. So I appreciate you saying that. And today is not about judging the food or judging raw versus cooked. It's definitely not about discipline, where how are we going to get you disciplined to practice and get this new habit. To me, it's about understanding the nervous system, and why is the nervous system still sort of gripping food even after weight loss? Like what's
Yeah,
going on there?
right.
Yeah. So how does that sound?
Sounds perfect.
Okay. So sometimes the body changes faster than the nervous system, and sometimes we don't um, re-educate or retrain the nervous system. We've sort of fixed one problem, but we left another one hanging.
Yeah.
And that's what people can do when they change their food around. If you change the calorie density of the food, that's going to change your weight. But there's lots of reasons people eat and choose the types of foods that they do. And if we don't address that upstream, then we're not fully healing the system, even though you're putting very healthy food into your body now. So you can lose weight, you can get healthier, you can get more disciplined, but still feel sort of that compulsion internally. And that food preoccupation, that nighttime eating, just loving food, fear. Also, I remember you saying there was a fear of regaining weight. There was all of that that fills up your consciousness too. So when you say we're going to use the word compulsive, not with judgment, but to just define a preoccupation with food. So if that word you said doesn't sting, I'm going to keep using it.
Sure.
But when you say I still think like a compulsive overeater, or when you said that before, where do you feel that in your body? Like, if you were going to, a lot of what I do is getting to the body, because the body is what drives a lot of our behavior and our impulse. So when you think when you say, I still think like a compulsive overeater, where do you feel that in your body?
I still think like a compulsive overeater. I don't seem to have any sensation
Yeah.
in any one place.
Excuse me, Janet, there's a lot of noise
Yeah.
coming from behind you.
Oh, he's up and about. He was just in the refrigerator, which is behind me, but I think
Okay.
he's done now.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, great. So it's hard for you to locate what happens in your body when you feel that, when you think those words, when you go back to
Yeah, I
that
don't.
place. Yeah. So that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes it's hard for us to recognize what's going on. And especially people that have experienced trauma, even people that have done a lot of therapy, and sometimes it's more intellectual therapy, but the reconnection to the body could still use a little bit of support, a little bit of healing. So I don't want you to feel pressured, but that's something that will be helpful, because the first thing that happens before we actually get the thought of eating, and a lot of people impulsively, they don't think, oh, you know what? I want to get that food. They get this impulse, this sense. And then, sort of as they're going for it, their body is already on autopilot towards the food, or imagining getting the food, or the mouth starts to water. And then your brain is sort of catching up. Have you ever had that happen where you're almost, the body is already getting started before your head has fully decided or is clear about the food choice? For example, for me, these date nut balls that I have that I love, I could be a little bit stressed and I'm walking upstairs and I pass in the fridge, or I thinking as I go up, and I just sort of, it's not even a full, it's a little bit subconscious, and then I'm heading over and I'm like, oh, that would be good. And then I'm already sort of heading towards the freezer, and I might even open up the drawer and then I'm like, oh, I want a ball. But by then my mouth is watering and I have to use more energy to get myself to stop. Does that make sense? Where it's almost like when you get a craving for something, Janet, do you get that where that body is starting to head towards it before it's fully formed in your head?
Boy,
Maybe it's hard
I,
to
I,
imagine
I,
that.
I think more like I wake up first thing and I think at first, oh, good, I'm not hungry. I'll just pee and come back to bed. And then I go pee, and by the time I come back to bed, I start to feel hungry
Mm,
or whatever that is. And then
okay.
I'm like, well, I could just have an apple,
Okay.
and I mean, this was before when I was, and so that's sort of how I would introduce it. And then I would get up and get an apple and, um, and eat the apple. And then it might
Okay.
be, okay, the apple might even stimulate more appetite. And
Right.
so I might go get another one, or I might go get a banana or an orange, or. But
Okay.
then pretty much then it'd be okay, and then I could go back to sleep again. But it was more a mental thing than a body thing.
Yeah. So there's body as far, so the mental, if it's just mental,
Hmm.
tell me something else that you like. Tell me something else. It doesn't even have to be food, but you like music, or what's something that you really like doing, or like reading? Do you like reading?
I really like going outside and going bicycling or walking or strolling in the garden or
What about
spreading
in the
wood
house? What
chips.
about what about in the house? Is there stuff that you like to do in the house?
Check
You like to
the
read?
email. I I'm not much of a reader.
You're not much of a reader. But email,
Li-
you like to
list
check email,
Check email, listening to podcasts.
listening to podcasts. So give me an example. So
Yeah.
here's a question for you. It's something that you like to do. It's just like you like to eat. If you're not hungry, you said it's just a mental thing.
Hmm.
But why don't you listen to podcasts at night or check
I
your
do.
email at night? So you'll get up
I
and listen
do.
to a podcast when you wake up. So it's just bored. Like you'll just be bored
Yeah.
and be like, oh, I'll listen to a podcast. I'll listen to an email.
Yeah. Yep.
So then the question I had is, if you're not hungry, and then eventually being up, you get hungry. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I would then wonder what's happening that's making it difficult to stay asleep. And why is your body not able to stay in a deep sleep, through the night? Like, what time is this
Hmm.
happening, for example? Usually what time you go to bed and what time does this happen?
Yeah. Usually I go to bed between 7 and 9,
Hmm.
and it's usually like 2 hours later I'll wake up the first time.
And
And
it's
it's
around
always
11.
I've had what kind of a teeny bladder my whole life. My whole life. I'm a twin. I don't know if I got a little bit gypped in the bladder uh, part of things, but um, yeah. So I'll wake up
Okay.
around 2 hours later, and then it'll be another 2 hours. So like if I go to bed at 7:30, I'm up at 9:30 or 10:30. So I usually probably go to bed more. I sleep around 8:30 because
Okay.
a
And
lot
then
of times I'll
10:30.
wake up at 10:30. Yeah, and then
All right.
12:30 and then 2:30.
Okay.
It's like every couple of hours I have to get up and pee.
Right. And you're eating a high water content diet, so there's also more fluids in
It's
your
very
system.
hydrating. In fact, I don't drink a lot of water because, oh,
You get it from the food.
I pee enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. When you wake up at night before eating, could you tell me what your body feels like? Other than the fact that you have to pee. Do you feel
yeah.
restless, wired, empty, lonely? What does it
I
feel
can
like
get
when you wake up?
really restless feeling.
So restless,
Like
like it,
my, yeah, like I just want to get up and do something, but it's, like I'll wake up thinking, oh, I've slept through the night. And then I look at the
mhm.
clock and it's only 10:30. I'm like, oh, shoot, I feel
Mm,
so wide awake.
yeah. So there's that
Yeah.
restless sensation. And where do you feel the restlessness in your body? Is it in your
My whole
chest?
body, my legs, it's like the restless leg syndrome,
Hmm. Just can't
where
get
you just
comfortable.
have to move your body. Yeah. To keep
Yeah.
changing positions. Yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, sometimes, if I get up and sit up, it helps. And listening to a podcast will distract me, and that's good. And, I know I'm not supposed to turn things on, but sometimes that's the only thing that can get
Right.
me more comfortable again. Yeah.
And then after the podcast, you can go back to sleep.
Not
No.
necessarily. I mean,
Okay.
sometimes I'll fall asleep during it. Sometimes I'll watch several things.
So that's
I mean,
so that's where I would want to dive in more, but I don't want to
okay.
get it because when people can't sleep, now granted, if you're getting woken up from food, needing the water, and you have to pee,
Yeah.
that's one thing that we can address.
But
But
even
that's
even before I was raw, my whole life, I've never slept through the night. I
right,
usually get up
exactly.
3 times a night. That's
Right. But one of
common
the
for me.
reasons that people can get up at night, because especially if you said you have a small bladder, so you'll pee a little bit.
Well, I don't
It's
know
not
if
a
I do, but no, it doesn't pee a little bit. I pee, I pretty good.
right. That's what I'm saying. So if
Yeah.
it's before you were raw, you would say that you still peed a lot at night.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So then the other question I have is what's happening in your system, in your body that's preventing you from being able to stay asleep? And for most people, they need their nervous system to go into what we talk about as safety physiology. And they need to be able to feel safe, especially to drop into deep sleep.
Hmm.
So, deep sleep, body needs to be safe, say there's no threat. You go into
Hmm.
deep sleep, and then you pop out of deep sleep. You go through the different phases of sleep. It would be
Okay.
interesting to track that and see if, 'cause so some people, when they're struggling, when their nervous system is dysregulated, you'll see them have these very short, frequent spikes of deep sleep,
Uh-huh.
which is their body's trying to go in and then it shoots back out because it doesn't feel there's not the safety. And you'll have like 5, 6, 7 spikes that are like a couple of minutes versus a nice 40-minute, deep
Hmm.
sleep, nice big thick wave of deep sleep, which is where a lot of our restoration happens, is
Hmm.
in the deep sleep. So that's sometimes telling. Also measuring heart rate variability. Have you ever measured that? No? Okay. It's
Heart
just
rate. Well, how would I measure that? Just
some
keep
of the
taking.
watches, have
Oh,
them. But basically the more variability there is between beats, the more parasympathetic activity, the more safety physiology you have. When your body is mobilized, there's going to be more rigid, think of it like regular beats, not variable. So that's another way, because what I'm curious is what's happening in your nervous system that is
yeah.
making it hard to stay asleep. And also, people eat for a variety of reasons. Some, it's very comforting and calming to eat through, chewing and swallowing. It's very regulating. It stimulates the vagus nerve. And also, just eating in itself, it's called bidirectional activity of, for example, the vagus nerve. So if we feel calm, our digestion will turn on. We go into rest and digest and reproduce. All of those things can happen. But what's interesting is not only can the calm start from the inside and then the digestion turns on, you can also start to give it food, and then that will go back to your body and say, hey, if you're eating, you must be a calm time. You see what I'm saying? It can go both ways. You
That's
can feel
true.
calm
It
and
would
eat,
calm me down. Yeah.
right? So if you're
Yeah.
feeling already, like you said at night, jittery and your legs can't sit still and all those things, those are all signs, and you're waking up frequently, those are all signs that your nervous system is more mobilized and
Hmm.
dysregulated.
Hmm.
And when that happens, okay, then we have to look into, excuse me, we have to look into that other stuff and retraining the body to help it feel safe.
Hmm.
And that's not something you can do intellectually. Like you
Hmm.
could say, I'm in a bedroom, the doors are locked, my husband's here, I feel very safe. But if your body still is still sort of beating to its own drum, and it's just going to decide, and just from the trauma history, for example,
Hmm.
we have to now retrain the body around safety, not just our head to tell it it's safe. So there's a part that we talk about. There's different parts, and there's a part that you have that wakes up. Let's just call it a part. It's a part of you that wakes up and is trying to protect you in some way. That all of the stuff that happens to us, our body's trying to help us. It's trying to protect us. I don't ever see it as a flaw. It just might be an old protector that we actually don't need anymore, but they're still online and no one's ever helped it sort of rest and go off duty. So if you had a part of you, if you thought about the part of you that wakes up and you said, you know what, this part isn't broken. There's nothing wrong with me for waking up, but it's actually trying to protect you, even if we don't know why or how. If that part of you could speak and you had to make up something, what would you say that that part is worried about? Do you have any sense? And it might be hard to do that right now, but if you did, I'd be curious what you think it might say.
Hmm. So, not the part that says you're safe now, but the part that says that I'm not safe now?
Yeah. Like, for example, before we get into that, I could give you some examples of
Okay.
ways that getting up might be helping you.
Okay.
Because if you think that it's wrong and I need to stop this terrible behavior, you're not connecting to the parts that are trying to help you.
Yeah.
So we talked about nervous system calming, chewing, sweetness, digestion can all shift the body towards a calmer state. And if your body's feeling jittery and having trouble resting and it wants to rest and go into sleep, but it can't do that until you're calm and food calms you, and you're trying to take the food away and resist it, you're fighting with your body.
Hmm.
And your body's like, wait a second, I'm just trying to help her calm down so we can rest.
Hmm.
So do you see how that's an example?
Hmm.
If energy is if energy intake, calories, and I'm not saying you're not getting enough calories, but let's say some days you're a little bit lower than your body would like.
Hmm.
If energy intake is low during the day, then fruit is a great way for your body to correct that and say, oh, let's
Hmm.
get a couple of little calorie bursts here. And
Hmm.
that's a rapid signal to the brain too. Tells the brain, hey, we're good, we're getting food, we're getting calories, don't worry. And you can actually tell, it tells the brain, reduce your food seeking signals, we're good. It's also predictable self-soothing. Food provides a reliable, repeatable way to regulate discomfort and restlessness. And then there's emotional regulation. Eating can briefly relieve feelings like anxiety, or even if it doesn't relieve it, it can distract from anxiety and loneliness or tension that can surface at night. So if you're
Hmm.
having anxiety or loneliness or tension or some other unpleasant emotion, this can distract from that. It's almost like if I gave you tight shoes and gave you a foot massage, or sorry, gave you a back massage. And you're like, well, the tight shoes are uncomfortable, but the back massage feels good. So I'm focusing on that. And then I go back to the tight shoes later.
Okay.
So it can also give you some regulation in that sense. And then it can also reduce if there's any deprivation. If after years of weight struggle, nighttime eating can sort of reassure the brain that food is not being restricted. So
Uh-huh.
if we've always restricted, as you know, for years of your life battling weight, and then all of a sudden you eat at night, it's like, oh, we it's not restricted. We have freedom here around food. So that can feel good. And then helping sleep return. If it consistently, if that behavior leads to you going back to sleep, the brain says this is actually a pretty good strategy.
Oh, my
So we
goodness.
eat and then
Yeah.
we go back to sleep. Fantastic. That's
All
what I
that
want.
fits. All
All of
that
that fits.
fits. All
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. So I just listed so many good, good reasons for eating at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a behavior that doesn't feel ideal to you or
Yeah.
doesn't seem ideal can be extremely protective.
Uh-huh.
And the nervous system repeats strategies that reduce distress or restore balance. That's what it's going to do. So your brain is like, and your nervous system is like, hey, look at all the things that this does. Why are you telling me to stop? Just keep quiet and let me do what I do best.
Mhm.
How does it feel when I go through that for you? How does that feel?
It really feels supportive, like, wow, that's that it all fits. It's like, yeah, yeah, that all makes sense.
Hmm.
I haven't thought about it that way, but that definitely I did go through a time where I was like, I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to go with it because I do get that sense that my body's always trying to help me. Um, and it's always going towards health. I mean, that's really cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I see some opportunities here to work with those areas.
Okay.
So not only is there to practice new strategies around helping the body start to experience safety and regulation and go into that safety physiology,
Uh-huh.
there's also just starting to wrap your head around the needs that what you're doing are meeting,
Uh-huh.
that are being met. And then there's also, I think, some experimentation. Like we can cross things off the list. For example, one of the things I said was, what if you're some days are worse than others because you're not getting as many calories as you need? For
Hmm.
example, if you're more active, you said you were, powerlifting, if you had a little bit less fat or a little bit lower calorie density, or you were doing some night walking, or, all of that can affect the amount of calories you need.
Hmm.
And because you eat so low calorie density, it could seem like, wow, this is a lot more to be able to meet the caloric needs of the day when it's actually not that many more calories.
Hmm.
So sometimes I don't know if you're just eating during the day, if there's ever times where you're hungry and you're saying, I'm not going to eat, and then you wait for the next meal, or do you pretty much always eat if your body feels hungry?
I like I was saying, if I get hungry in between now, I'll eat a couple of celery sticks, and it's amazing
Hmm.
how that does the trick.
Okay. So celery is going to be good for volume because the stomach tracks volume. So your stomach might say, okay, we had some celery, but the brain tracks and the nervous system is tracking energy availability.
Hmm.
So when energy availability is low or inconsistent, the brain will increase food thoughts. And that's just survival biology.
Hmm.
One of the things I notice when I do water fasting is that I get to a certain level of hunger and I never get hungrier than that. If I skip a couple meals, at the end of the day, I'm pretty hungry. That's about the max hunger I am even 6 days into my fast. Like it's not like I'm not 6 times hungrier on day 6.
Hmm.
But I do know what is different is that I'm thinking about food a lot more.
Uh-huh.
So when my calories are low, I get the sense I have thoughts around food that I don't usually have when I'm eating regularly. I'll think about, ooh, I'm craving this. Ooh, I'm craving that. Ooh, what am I going to eat when I break my fast? Ooh, I'm going to do that, and which is unusual for me because I don't usually have a lot of thoughts about food. Now, somebody
Hmm.
who's been deprived or using calorie restriction, or they probably are more used to having thoughts about food. So they don't see the difference there because there's some habit. I'm actually curious
Mhm.
because AJ, you do fasting or have done fasting. Do you notice that your thoughts about food increase if you restrict calories
Well,
or do?
I- I'm well, okay. Well, I do you really want my honest opinion about this? Because I don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
tell
yeah,
Yes.
her what to do. I really feel because I had been raw for 2 years that without starch, there's literally no satiety, and that you're always going to have to overeat calories, especially if it's the raw food low fat. Because I've done raw food low fat and raw food high fat in culinary school. And for me, when I was raw for 2 years, I never slept because the diet is wonderful for healing, but it just gives you so much darn energy that I could only sleep 3 or 4 hours a night. So for me,
Hmm.
I keep thinking, what would Dr. Lyle say? And he might say, instead of bashing the raw food diet, ask you to do an experiment and not be raw and see if this goes away. Eating a healthy McDougall style diet, and it can be SOS-free. So um, I don't know, the thing about low calorie density is you have to eat so much volume. And I think that becomes like a full-time job.
yeah. So you think that without starches, you're just going to be thinking about food a lot more than if you, because satiety is linked to how much you think about
Well,
food.
this is me and my body. Like, for example, I get PET scans quite often, more than the average person. And when you prepare for a PET scan, you're allowed to eat. But guess what you can't eat? Carbs. So basically, and since I can't eat beans or tofu, I'm basically eating fat and vegetables. And
Hmm.
I'm getting enough calories, but I am so unsatisfied.
Yeah, yeah. And that's been my experience too around starch has been really important. I do know there's people that eat lots of fruit and they say that they're very comfortable and satisfied. So for me, it's more about the fact that you say that you're not exactly fully, I would say, satisfied at night. Like, is that fair to say that at least at night, there's a part of you that wants to end you? I think we're defining it as maybe satisfied, like the thoughts about food when you're eating one meal, thinking about the next. But my understanding is that you're thinking about that as there's something that's just not clicking right in my brain, or there's like, how are you thinking? Let me ask you again, how are you thinking about the fact that you think about food at the next meal or wake up wanting to eat? Would that align with the idea that I'm satiated or no?
I feel very satiated at each meal, and I feel very satiated when I go to bed at night. Um, like I say, when I first wake up and have to go pee, I don't feel hungry at all. I introduce it, I'm pretty
Right.
sure, with my brain, and it really makes sense to me that when I can't get comfortable, uh, the neurological component that you're talking about fits.
Yeah. So that sounds like that's more of, and maybe that's what you test first. But I think being able to say, let's put all these variables on a list. There's no reason, we don't have to test any of them. But if our goal is to get to the bottom of this, it's to put everything on there and to say, hey, let's do this hypothetical because I don't care if you eat starch or not. AJ doesn't care if you eat starch or not. But
Mm.
if you let's assume that you ate potatoes and then all of a sudden didn't have any sweet potatoes, let's say, and you slept through the night and didn't think about food. Now I'm doing extremes for a reason here, for the purpose of a thought exercise. But let's assume you ate sweet potatoes, you added that to your diet, and now you slept through the night and didn't think about food in between meals. Would that be worth it to you, or is it still like, no, I really want to eat raw? So even if that did it, I'd love to find another way, which still may be possible, but I just want to get an idea around that.
Yeah, I ate potatoes for the
Mhm.
first three. I've been raw for a year and a half, and I loved potatoes, but I don't want to eat cooked food anymore. It's just not healthy.
Right. So what I'm so that's what I want to do for the thought exercise here, Janet. Is it I want you
Uh-huh.
again to hear that I don't have any desire to make you eat anything cooked. This is the purpose of an exercise, to see what your different needs are. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
But
say,
I understand where Chef AJ's coming from, and I just really do think it's different. Raw really resonates with me.
but hold on,
And
Janet. I want to back up. I want to back up.
yeah,
I want to stay with my question here. I want to stay with my question, which is, if you knew that eating sweet potatoes would help you sleep through the night and would prevent you from thinking about food between meals, even though that's not the solution we want, which is more important to you, to be raw or to use a solution? So even if
to be
that
raw.
worked, you would rather deal with this stuff, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful. That's what I'm trying to get at, is even if, this, pill, whatever we're calling sweet potatoes, you would rather not do that to be raw, and you would deal with the fact that you think about food in between meals and you get up and have trouble falling back asleep.
Yeah. Because like
Yeah,
I say, with 6 weeks of not doing it, I'd forgotten even that I think about it all the time. I don't think about it like I did. That
perfect.
it's really made a
Yeah,
huge difference.
right.
Yeah.
So that's also very telling, is that for 6 weeks you were eating the same food, you weren't thinking about food all the time, and you were sleeping through the night.
Well,
Now you were
I would get
sleeping,
up to pee and come right back and go back to sleep again.
right, but you would fall back asleep, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So that also is more consistent with, there's some other something else going on here, like what we were talking about before. And that's where I think it's helpful to know, okay, well, we got to test a bunch of things here. We got to test a bunch of things here. And I think there is this concern about low calorie density being, well, we can put that on the list, but we don't have to worry about that. There's also, right now at least, there's trauma wiring. There's just there was also, I think, some fear around increasing calorie density, right? Although you did smoothies there. Did you do that with carob powder, for example? Do you do that here at home?
Yes, I use
You
raw
do.
carrot powder. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So you're getting a lot. So it was a lot of the same foods. Was there anything there that was different than here?
Well, I think I learned more of how much I need to eat and uh, food
Wait a second.
combining.
You learned more about how much you need to eat, meaning you ate more frequently or more quantity? What did you do? What did you learn?
I, to me, I always eat a lot of food, so I'm kind of a high volume eater, but I don't know if it was the combinations.
Okay.
Um, I should have paid better attention because,
Oh,
I just when we served meals, I just ate until I was full, and
yeah.
like I say, I didn't have a choice really. I was in a different house, and so it just wasn't an option
Yeah.
to eat, and we were so
Okay.
busy in between meals, it just before I knew it, I was making the next meal, and it was going to be time to eat anyway, and so it just happened.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think it would be interesting to do some experiments,
okay,
and that was on my list. Again, I would never recommend that you force yourself to eat something that you don't feel comfortable eating.
yeah,
But if this became more about data gathering, some possible experiments could be just increasing calorie density, because that's,
hmm,
whether it's from a starch or from something else. Do you have ways that you can increase your calorie density?
oh yeah, fruit.
Now, so do you limit fruit currently?
No, but I could eat. I probably eat 2,000, calories a day. I don't think my calories are too low, but I can keep track.
Yeah, I think that's what we want now, is more for the experiences that keep track.
Hmm.
Also, the timing of when you're eating. Um, and I'd also want you to observe the night waking. Have you ever done expressive writing?
I have, but I haven't in a while.
Yeah, so where you just write what's going on in your head and you just let it out and don't stop. until you don't, you don't even think about it. And then you tear it up or burn it or whatever. You don't even have to you don't want to keep it or analyze it or reread it.
Yeah, that's good. I should do that. Okay, I'll do that.
And I,
Track the
and you,
calories, observe night.
yeah. And then I want you to sort of just track the mental food preoccupation. So you can do that by journaling. I
Okay.
have, do you use AI at all?
Yes,
You do.
I
So I
love
have
it.
an
Yeah.
AI, a stress eating AI coach that you can um, try and see if that's helpful. But what I would do is I would
Okay.
talk to the coach and say, "Hey, coach, thinking about food, and and I'm having trouble, and you can tell it specifically. I'm having trouble regulating my body,
Okay.
and I would like you to help me regulate my body before I eat something." And that's the other thing is that you can do that at bed whenever you wake up. You don't even have to be about food. The coach will help you and say, "Hey, I just need help regulating. I'm feeling a little restless right now, and my body feels really jittery." Describe what your
Okay.
body is, but I want you, and this would be something that if we, continued working, it would be where you're building the skills around knowing what you're feeling in your body and being able to connect to that.
Yeah.
And people that have experienced trauma have a harder, it's harder just
Yes.
because it's either been blocked or not modeled or both.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we get off, I'll give you I can text you the link to the stress eating coach. But the
Okay.
idea is to be able to be with these feelings. And when you hear this idea of experiment instead of here's what you have to do, does that feel a little lighter?
Yeah, I'm real used to experimenting with Dr. Lyle,
Okay. All right, good.
so it's not a
So
problem. I love experiments.
okay. And then I would love, and again, we're not going to do that here, but the vigilance that your nervous system learned growing up in your
Yeah,
environment,
that really
um,
fits.
that really is a big piece of how do we shift that? And my guess is if you imagined um, when you were younger in that environment, and you just remember being a child in that environment, if you take a second to go back, you probably will feel a sensation in your body if you're able to connect to your body. But maybe it's tension, maybe it's a sense of a weight, maybe it's grief and a heaviness in your chest, maybe it's tension in your head. It could be something else, or maybe you don't feel anything and it's more of like a numb feeling where you just almost dissociated from that experience.
That's closer to any of
Yeah,
these because I just blocked it
just
all
not
out.
blocked it all out. So there's
Yeah.
a numbness that there's stuff in there that your body is going to try and get out and communicate to you. And how do we
Hmm.
build? And when someone's experienced a lot of trauma, we want to do it in a way that is very safe and doesn't stimulate more trauma. But that needs to be guided. So I would definitely there's somatic experiencing practitioners. There's people that help you, reconnect, and you can learn more about that. Peter Levine is the guy who created somatic experiencing. There's internal family systems, which can help you connect to different parts of you. Um, and we actually have a internal family systems AI coach that we're testing out now. So there's ways of getting some support, which is really to be with this experience and learn how to become conscious of this experience without it being traumatizing. But now, because it was more numb, it's going to be hard. But if you imagine eating something comforting as a child, do you remember eating things that were comforting as a child?
Oh, yes.
What did you eat? What's something that you would eat?
Well, molasses, those big round molasses cookies,
Okay.
they were so
And
comforting. And of course, ice cream. I don't even
ice
like
cream.
ice cream. Yeah, it took me till adult. I loved ice cream, but ice cream, I don't know. It
Yeah, but
just got so ruined with all the crap they put in it
yeah,
that it just became tasteless.
but the ice cream and those molasses cookies, I could see your face light up with
Yeah, I
with
remember.
emotion, and your body remembers that. How does that feel in your body? Do you feel like a lightness or a warmth or an
Yeah,
energy or a tingling? Do you feel anything?
Yeah, it's a fond memory, and it was a comfort, when I was a child and there was no comfort. I would get that. It was a single stack of molasses cookies, and I'd
Yeah.
hide in
And when
my room and eat them.
you'd hide, yeah, you'd hide in your room by
Yeah.
yourself, and you'd hide. So I guess you had to sneak them.
Oh, yeah. And then I'd have to
Why'd
eat
you,
them all because otherwise I'd get caught.
why'd you have to sneak them? Your parents weren't allowed to have the cookies.
Correct.
Yeah. And when I asked you what it felt like when you even had that fond memory, notice how you said you went back to the head, which is a fond memory. But again, it was hard to put language to the body.
My
That
body
to
didn't
me
feel
is
anything.
your body's not feeling anything. So that's another clue that there's stuff going on in the body, which to me aligns with you saying it's not just the calorie density. Now, starch might be
Yeah.
helpful, might not, but there's other stuff going on here that's causing your body to be dysregulated at night, to not fall into deep sleep, and then to try and self-soothe and regulate the
I
nervous
think that
system.
I think the starch was also kind of like a drug. And now that I'm off all the drugs, it's like it exposes
Yeah,
this nervous, yeah.
yeah, maybe it's all, and that's where it's very helpful to, growing up in the chronic unpredictable stress that you did, your nervous system learned vigilance.
Yeah.
And now eating low calorie density and being highly active, your brain is protecting you, it's compensating, and the work now becomes increasing nervous system safety, obviously ensuring adequate fuel, which you're going to track, reducing any, if there's fear of calorie density, we want to notice that. We don't have to do anything that's beyond, we don't want to forcing your body to do something it doesn't want, it's not comfortable is not any better from my perspective. If
Hmm.
I forced us, whatever it was, that's not giving you a sense of safety. I want to give your body messages of safety. And then
Hmm.
I want to observe what shifts as you're starting to notice these things and practice these things. Um, but there's no shame, there's no forcing. Instead of saying to yourself, I'm not going to eat tonight, maybe you put your hands on your chest and and you just close your eyes. And you take a deep breath in. You just take a breath, and we can even say things. I've done things where I'm even moving my finger on my chest, my thumb, which is a self-soothing self-touch, and I'm breathing. And there's things like, Janet, you can say to yourself, Janet, you are safe. You can breathe in that safety, take a deep breath with that safety right now. You can say, Janet, you are okay right now.
Janet, you're safe. You're okay.
And then you can take another deep breath and you can say something like, Janet, you are good through and through.
Janet, you are good through and through.
You can say, Janet, you are loved.
You got me.
Yeah,
Janet, you are
yeah,
loved.
you are loved. And just feel that love. There we go. And then take another deep breath. Breathe that safety, Janet. You are safe right now. Let your body fill with that safety and then blow out everything right now in this moment is okay. Good. There you go. Perfect. Now, how did that feel in your body? Just taking a minute. Feels soft, maybe.
Hmm.
How did that feel to you?
Thank you.
Yeah. So, so these are all techniques that if you do frequently, like the exercise I just gave you,
Hmm.
if you did that throughout the day and you really felt it. It's not about doing, it's not an intellectual exercise where you're like, Janet, you're safe, Janet, you're okay, everything's fine. You don't do that. It's all about the tone and the pacing and the breathing with the slow exhale.
I felt that one.
You felt it. Where'd
Yeah.
you feel that?
In my heart.
In your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So your body's in there, right? Body's in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's there's nothing wrong. Like this is how you survived growing up the way you did and being successful in this world. And now we just want to add some more skills that allow you to connect to your body and help you regulate. And
Yeah.
some of the skills we can say, thank you very much. You helped me for so long, and now you can take a break. Yeah,
Okay.
good. So again, this is not about, I just want to be very clear. This is not about blaming raw. This is not about
No.
blaming trauma. This is not about, this is about honoring everything that's sort of you're dealing with, that you're holding. And I think sometimes healing requires compassion for the past. And
Yeah.
like you said, you notice something soften just in this time together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we want more of.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you
How you
so
doing,
much.
Jen?
It's
Yeah.
been great.
Okay. So a
I love
lot, a
it.
lot to do, and I'll text you the link to play with
Okay.
the coach. And it's not about them saying this coach saying anything special. It's about you checking in, and that coach is basically holding space by you checking in. So
Okay.
it's about doing it. It's not about some amazing epiphany. It's about you regularly checking in with this coach throughout the day or before you go to bed or when you wake up, and
Okay.
just noticing. And then you can even say, I have a hard time noticing what I feel in my body. Maybe you can help me. Okay,
Okay.
great. All right, AJ, well, actually, before AJ, actually, Janet, do you have any questions or do you feel complete?
I feel like I got my work cut out for me, and I'm excited for it.
Good, good, good.
So I'm good.
Hey, all right, we'll bring AJ back. Is she here?
Yeah,
There she
no,
is.
I'm right here. I've never left. Well, that was really interesting to watch, and a lot of people resonated with it. So thank you. And we're going to miss you for the next 3 weeks, Dr. Matt.
Yeah, I love being here. So thanks for people who are tuning in and watching, and that you're going to miss me. That's a good sign. I'm gonna miss you all too. I love doing this, AJ. And thank you, AJ, for making space. This is not something that is common in the plant-based world, right? It's more you sort of branched out a little here, and I
No,
appreciate you doing that.
they're still just about of the micronutrients. That's all it's all about the food. It's not about the feelings. So
Yeah.
anyway, I appreciate you doing this, and I appreciate all you watching another episode of Chef AJ and Friends. Come back next week though for Javant. He actually has a brand new book coming out, and he's going to be making a recipe from it. So take care,
Oh.
everybody. Thanks, Janet, and thanks, Matt. Take care. Bye-bye.